50% bioavailable.
Can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
You
hate the tissue?
I hate the cotton.
This one's not.
Hey guys, this is an all-new episode of HBFIT TV, and we are here with Dr. Berzin, who is the CEO and founder of Parsley Health.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, how are you?
Really good, thank you.
Good.
So I would love to hear a little bit about, I've been following you now for a really long time. I thought longer, but I think it's actually been like 2.5 years. But I want to know a little bit about your trajectory within your field. Like I know, like how did you come to want to go to med school and become a doctor? And tell me a little bit about like that background.
Yeah, well, it's actually kind of crazy because I never thought of myself as a doctor or a science person or a math person, and I don't know what I thought I was going to do, but my first job out of college was at the U.S. Attorney's Office and like prosecuting securities fraud as a paralegal.
Oh my God.
And it was like that crazy early 20s time, like living in New York, and I found myself kind of escaping work, frankly, because I didn't feel like I was in the right place for me. And you know, you're so young and you're trying to figure it out. And I found myself going to yoga all the time, which was something that was totally new for me. I didn't grow up with it. You know, growing up for me, like health wasn't part of the culture. It just wasn't a thing. And so I found myself going to yoga, and it helped me kind of break through what I realized was this concrete wall. That's how I describe it anyway, between my head and my body. Like I'd been ignoring this and kind of doing the thing that we all did at the time, which is like you define how healthy you are by like the number on the scale or like how skinny your jeans are.
Right.
And that's how I thought about things. And I was running around and I was like eating crap and drinking diet soda all the time and in a terrible relationship. And yoga just kind of cracked through all that.
Yeah.
And for me, it was this really powerful realization that one, I wanted to do something around health. And that two, I realized that everyone kind of does that. We all kind of live up here, aren't connected here, and that's actually driving so many of the behaviors that then result in so many of our diseases today, heart disease, cancer, dementia, all of it. And so that like weird kernel kind of derailed me in a really good way, and like long story short, ended up at med school at Columbia here in the city, but always knowing that I wanted to do something a little different.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And you mentioned to me earlier that you had worked on Dr. Oz's show as a producer.
Yeah, so this is like, he didn't have a TV show then.
Okay.
I was like, this is like back in the day, it's before I went to med school. I sort of had this funny year where you're like applying to med school and hoping you're getting in. And I actually worked with Dr. Oz, who's wonderful, on the first ever year of his radio show for Oprah.
Oh my God.
And it was a blast. It was amazing because I met everyone. Like I met every integrative and functional medicine doctor. I met the Surgeon General. I met Gail King. Like I met Oprah, and I met all these people who were looking to transform the world, I guess, through information and around health.
Right.
And I still like knew I was going to med school and going to like a very traditional med school, and I was psyched for that. But I think that year was totally eye-opening because I saw how Mehmet was trying to educate people at the time and how all of these people were, and I think that obviously stuck with me a little bit. Yeah,
clearly. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So speaking of like health and like progression and functional doctors and all of that, tell me a little bit about like the philosophy behind Parsley Health and what it does.
Yeah. So we believe that medicine should include nutrition, wellness, and prevention, and also simultaneously be cutting edge. So we have this world where wellness and nutrition and fitness and even mental health have kind of been put over here. And then there's medicine, right? There's cutting edge medicine, there's what happens in hospitals, there's drugs and specialists and surgeries and procedures.
Right.
And that's not serving us. It's completely broken. 86% of disease today is totally driven by lifestyle and diet. And yet, so that tells us that we know we have to kind of bring these two worlds together. It's not like, oh, wellness is the soft thing over here. It's like, no, wellness, nutrition, prevention, food is the first medicine. These are everything. And so
it's a lifestyle.
It's all of it.
Right.
And I think we've sort of woken up to that as a culture. But medicine is amazing, and I'm so grateful for my training at Columbia and Mount Sinai and, you know, conventional medicine. But then I also discovered this approach called functional health, which is focusing on getting to the root cause of problems. So it's like, okay, if a tree is dying, you don't cut off the leaves. You look at what's happening in the roots.
Right.
And so we look at not only at Parsley Health, which is my practice, and we're now in New York, LA, and San Francisco. And what we do is we work with you over time, and we get to know you as a whole person. And we don't want to just be like, okay, right now you've got a headache and high blood pressure, let's manage that with a drug.
Right.
We might prescribe a drug, because we do that too, but we're also going to look at, well, when did these things happen? And what's your whole health story? I believe that your life story is your health story, and that your doctor should know all of that about you, what your stress levels are, what you're eating, how you're moving, what your environment's like, how your relationships are, and should take all of that, plus some really cutting edge cool data that we look at, which is like we test things like the microbiome and toxins and hormones, things that regular doctors don't consider enough, and we bring all that together into this picture of you, and then we help you not only deal with whatever you're dealing with now, but it also helps you prevent things down the road. And so far, we're like pretty good at it.
Yeah,
so,
that's amazing.
That's good.
Is it true that 95% of diseases start in your colon?
So much of disease start in the gut, like
Yeah.
so much. I mean, if you think about it, and this is kind of like a trippy thing to think about, but your mouth all the way down to your bum is actually the outside world, right? You're taking things in,
Yeah.
eating them, and it's going down, and your body has to decide friend or foe, and it has to absorb what it needs, get rid of what it doesn't.
Right.
And talk, and there's all this crosstalk. We know that 70% of your immune system is in your gut, because like, hey, if you're bringing in the outside world, the primary thing for us as humans to stay alive would be to have an immune system, like a fighter's right there being like, whoa, that's not okay. So we have this incredibly powerful and smart digestive system that's also really connected to our brains and our moods. And the most important thing for people to realize is that we're like an ecosystem with our environment, with our food, with our bacteria that are around us. And then your whole body is this energetic, interconnected ecosystem. And medicine's like, oh, well, the heart's here and the brain's here and the GI tract's here. And that isn't working, because we can't look at them in isolation. So at Parsley, we don't. We look at everything and how it interacts with each other, and then we try to figure it out.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to come in for a consultation.
We're going to make that happen.
Yes. Okay, perfect. And so you guys also have products.
We do. We do offer some supplements, some that are ours, supplements, and some that we just recommend that are some of the best quality. So I was actually really psyched when I came in here today and I saw that some of the supplements that you use are like by and made from some of the companies that are really, really good.
Yeah.
Because it's like a total Wild West out there.
Completely.
There's a lot of stuff that like maybe won't hurt you, but like is not gonna do anything.
Right, or that is like marketed so well, and then it's like the source of where they're getting their shit from is terrible.
It looks pretty, it's bad sourcing, it doesn't have very much of an active ingredient. And so as physicians, like we can't recommend supplements unless we know that they're really legit. So all the supplements we use are professional grade, made in a pharma grade facility, tested, safe, and like most importantly, like if I'm prescribing them to you as your doctor, same way I prescribe a drug or a diet, I know that it's going to work and it's going to help you, or I think that it will, and I have like really legit reason to believe that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I actually did find out the hard way that whey protein and meat don't necessarily go together.
Yeah, it doesn't go with a lot of people.
Yeah, I find myself like inflamed. I find my skin acting up.
Yeah.
I find like I feel like as if like there's like stickiness in my like lymphatic system almost. Like I don't know. I feel like it's just not.
Well, whey and so casein and whey, which are the proteins in dairy, very different than lactose. So being lactose intolerant is not having enough of an enzyme to break down a sugar in dairy. But a lot of people are sensitive or allergic to the casein and the whey and the dairy, and I am, and I found that out the hard way too, because I'd never had acne, I'd always had great skin, and then in med school it was like a super stressful time, can't imagine why. And I developed cystic acne early in med school, and I was like, what's going on? And I got every cream and pill and like peel, and dermatologists were literally injecting my zits with cortisone.
Yeah.
And it was awful, like leaving me with scars. And then through med school, as I understood more about the field of functional health, I actually did a simple elimination diet, eliminated wheat and dairy from my diet for a month. Acne completely went away. And then I've tested it multiple times since, adding in one or the other, and they actually both lead to acne in me, but in kind of slightly different ways.
Same with me.
And it's extremely common. So many people who have headaches, allergies, congestion, GI issues, breakouts, rashes, even autoimmune diseases have food allergies. And so one of the things we do at Parsley is help you sort that out in a systematic way. Because I always see people like, oh, I like went on this crazy diet and I cut a bunch of stuff out, and then the day I finished it, I like drank beer and ate like a pizza, and then I like don't know why, I don't know which thing it was, and I'm like, whoa, like,
yeah, you did that backwards.
like let's just like take a beat.
Yeah.
And you know, like we all, I think more and more, because there's a lot more information out there, people sort of understand that they should do something. They don't necessarily know what to do for them, and also based on testing from a doctor. And so I see a lot of people sort of operating in this weird vortex, and then they bounce from one thing to another, and they don't actually achieve their goals. And so we've been really focused on, one, we have an annual membership, so you actually work with a doctor and a health coach all year to get better.
Oh, wow.
And we have a PhD in data science who works with us to track all our outcomes data, and we're actually analyzing in aggregate how our patients are doing, but also like how we're doing, and constantly trying to improve what we're doing.
That's amazing. Kind of like understand a little bit more about kind of the practical things that Parsley Health has to offer, specifically around like nutrition and supplements and whatnot.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it is really difficult for people to kind of understand how to go about reaching their goals. And there are so many different diets and things out there, and it's like, how do you know what's gonna work for you and what's gonna be effective?
At Parsley, what we find is that there's usually just more to it than that. And we prescribe every person a plan for their nutrition, their fitness, their mental health. We prescribe meditation to every person.
Amazing.
We look at supplements if needed. Sometimes supplements aren't needed. Like, I don't believe in taking heaps of supplements for life. Like, sometimes we use them to achieve tactical purposes, just the same way that we might prescribe a medication. Like, if you have a UTI, like, don't Reiki that away, take an antibiotic.
Right.
And then testing, and then we'll get into different kinds of tests with different people. Some people might need the fancy poop test to look at parasites in the microbiome, and somebody else might need a cortisol saliva test to look at their stress and how they're handling that and their hormones. Like,
so funny, I just did all of those.
Really?
Plus a urine test.
Amazing.
Yeah, because there's a doctor that I've been talking to named Dr. Specchio. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's definitely a functional doctor and kind of looks to see everything that's going on, big picture, because I'm finding that that's a really difficult thing for a lot of doctors to tackle. So speaking of cellular health, what are some of your like top tips for improving and maintaining high functioning cellular health?
I mean, it's almost like every cell is a little mini you, right? And when we think about cells, one thing I always is like, we look in them, you think back to like whatever grade that was where you like look under the microscope and see the cells.
I actually read a really like moving story of a girl who I've followed for a long time, and I never knew, sometimes when you follow someone, like you're coming into their journey at a different time, you know what I mean? So I didn't know this girl's background, and I was kind of just following her because she was so good at showcasing her healthy lifestyle. And then as I started to follow her, she kind of talked about what led her to her journey, and it was really because she was orthorexic, which is being obsessed with healthy eating. And she realized that it was taking over her life in a really toxic way. And so I found that so interesting as someone who was like very invested in her life, as we all are in the people who we follow, because we feel like we're with them every day. I found that to be so interesting, and I was so kind of relieved that she had come to like, understand that for herself, because I think, again, like as I think about like what happened with my grandmother and anorexia, and like, if you can't recognize and you can't, do something about that and really like put in the processes in place to help you get to that state where you're no longer like being ruled by the things that you're consuming or whatever. But I was like so proud of her, and it like gave me like a newfound like respect and like the whole thing.
I mean, some people definitely like, I think when it's occupying so much headspace that you can't think about anything else, then like, yes, like healthy living, eating clean, like they're meant to be the things that give you the energy and the foundation to live your life the way that you want, to do the work that you want to do, to invest in family or friends. Those are the things that ultimately matter. But like also, it's just so great, I think, as we have more awareness around diet, lifestyle, the science of things like epigenetics, the science of the microbiome, we're learning more and more that we do have a lot of power to affect how we feel every day and how we feel in the future. And if you can like avoid taking that into its like nth degree and like getting super obsessive around it, you can actually live a completely different life.
Totally.
I mean, the tiny shifts that you make, I always like love those line drawings where like you start here and you end up in this one pattern, but if you shift 1 degree to the right, the whole pattern that you get is different.
Change, yeah.
And it's like you could just make these shifts 1 degree to the right or 1 degree to the left, and your whole life could change.
Right. What is your take on lab meat?
You know, it's really interesting, and but I do think that it's potentially dangerous and problematic. And
you do?
I do. And the reason being, again, we don't fully understand the degree to which, you know, like I was saying before, everything is information from your cells. So the way that the proteins are folded directly impacts how they interact with your body and your cells. And so if the proteins are shaped differently because they were grown in a lab as opposed to being in the body of an animal that's exposed to the sun and the water and the grass, it's going to tell your cells something different. The same way that we know that plants that are GMO, that are bred to be resistant to pests and other things, have protein structures that are different. Right now, the question is that a bad thing or is that a neutral thing or is that a good thing? And the real answer is we have no idea.
Right.
And so where I wonder, I think that right now we're just, and maybe this is all of human history, so there's no way to get around this, but like we're living kind of the biggest uncontrolled experiment ever with phones and technology around us all the time, with people on these long-term drugs like antidepressants and stimulants for attention, and all of the drugs for diabetes and cholesterol and all these things. Like, never in human history have humans spent the majority of their lives medicated, surrounded by technology, and then increasingly eating foods that are engineered, right? And like, I'm definitely not going to sit here and say there's evidence that it's bad, but I do think that we should be asking the question, and I do think it should be labeled, because in like the late 70s, we grandfathered in tens of thousands of industrial chemicals that are considered safe into our like pharmaceutical products, over-the-counter products. So if you walk down this, you know, the pharmacy shelves, there's all this chemicals out there that have never been studied, and like, you know, just recently having had a baby, I've just become really hyper aware of all of this, like doctors telling people that, oh, it's, you know, that's fine to take when you're pregnant. You don't know that.
Right.
And none of these things have been studied. And so I just am a really big proponent of label it, look before you leap, and learn, you know?
Okay, so tell us like what's next for Parsley Health.
Yeah. So it's sort of, I have to like pinch myself, because when I started Parsley as this tiny office with like 3 people in New York a couple years ago, it was just this idea that we could have this membership-based practice where we offered functional primary care, and it could be affordable and accessible and beautiful and a great experience, and that like everything could be online. I had like all of these millions of ideas that I was like jamming into one. And since then we opened LA, and then we opened San Francisco, and so now we have centers in 3 cities. And I think what's coming up that I'm really excited about is that we've had a couple years now to track our outcomes data, and we're really looking at it closely and like learning from ourselves, right? How can we constantly improve based on the data that we're getting? And something that we're seeing is that we're having incredible success rates, especially around certain conditions. We're helping people with gut problems, where we're really like 80% get better. We are helping people resolve longstanding insomnia, anxiety, eczema, and other autoimmune conditions. I had one patient, 24 years old, she had a vasculitis, like an autoimmune disease that gave her ulcers from her mouth all the way down. She had been through every top specialist, Cornell, every top institution, every drug hadn't worked. And she came to us, and through modifying her diet and doing something called a gut healing protocol with very specific supplements, a few other changes based on her testing, we put her disease entirely into remission.
Wow.
And she's been with us for 2 years. And she is complete, and we have reams and reams of these stories. And then one of the areas that we also have really early data, because the numbers are small, but we have early data showing that we're helping women who were told that they'd need IVF, that they couldn't get pregnant on their own, that was like going to be impossible, get pregnant, have a healthy pregnancy.
Wow.
Through just addressing stuff going on in their own body. And so what I'm excited about for 2018 is we're going to be doing some online master classes on some of these different topics where we now have the data to say we really help people in these specific areas and teaching people like anywhere how they can help themselves. And also maybe Preview might be doing some memberships and specific programs available at Parsley. Today we have one membership. I've always been like pretty basic, like keep it simple. But we may be doing some more specific programs around things like fertility, GI health, mood and energy, anxiety, metabolism, and immune stuff where I know that we have data that shows that these protocols across the board in thousands of people in 3 cities are working.
Yeah.
And like that to me is the holy grail, because it's all well and good to have like a small practice and see a few people. That like that work is like, I respect that forever. But what I really want to do is transform medicine. And I think we can do that through Parsley and make Parsley like this approach to medicine that is very cutting edge, very tech forward, but also very human and holistic, looks at your life. This should be the kind of doctor that everyone has.
Right, practical.
It shouldn't just be like a few people that have access to this.
True.
And so I feel like Parsley is the beginning of that, and that, you know, our trajectory is amazing, and we're going to do it. We're going to make it available to everyone.
Well, amazing. I can't wait to say I knew you when.
I mean, we'll see, but I hope so.
That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode of HBFIT TV, and thank you, Robin, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, it was awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. If you did, let us know. Give us a thumbs up. Even tell us what the latest innovation in healthcare that you've come across is. We'd love to know about it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and follow Parsley Health either on Instagram or parsleyhealth.com. That was like a little bit of a slur, but it was fine.
We got it.
Okay, cool.